Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. A quick update video here on Iota and particularly the Shimmer aspect of Iota as well, the SMR token on the exchange. Before we go into that one, don't forget, if you are new to the channel or haven't done so already yet, do smash that subscribe button and hit the like button as well. Massively appreciate it. Helps the channel get to new audiences so we can share more knowledge and education about the Web3 and blockchain space. Let's go straight into this one. I'm going to try and keep this nice and quick fire. Unlike my usual videos that tend to go on for like 20-30 minutes. So the Iota's Shimmer EVM, this is the Ethereum Virtual Machines aspect of the Shimmer platform, has been integrated with Fireblocks. Now Fireblocks, absolutely humongous company, especially over the last couple of years. It's really orientated itself more so than ever before around the aspect of being able to essentially provide a service on an institutional level, in aspects of moving, storing, and arguably what they also boast is issuing digital assets in general. And to be able to coordinate that across various exchanges, various chains, I wouldn't go as far as them being like Chainlink, but they're very much a service provider of so many different solutions. And you can start to sort of piece together how this would work on an institutional level. So for example, here we can see that many wallets have been created. However, the aspect of trusted partners are absolutely phenomenal. And you will find pretty much most blockchains on here. And certainly from an institutional financial level, massive companies here. You know, you've got Monica brands here, WorldPay. You've seen some of the platforms like eToro. There's loads of links to various different companies on here. I mean, this is just some of them, guys. Absolutely phenomenal amounts that they do here within Fireblocks. So for me, the exciting point around this topic here is, of course, Shimmer being a part of the Iota system, very much orientating itself as kind of like a development platform, if you like. And it kind of mentions a bits and pieces in here about Shimmer's capabilities. Iota being the predominant framework with its Tangle opportunities. If you don't know much about Tangle or direct acyclic graph, which is basically what Iota is built on, you can check out my dedicated DAG video. That is not DAG as in constellation, DAG's token. It's DAG as in direct acyclic graph. It's absolutely fascinating, the technological advancement opportunity here. And I've always said that DAG is the evolution of blockchain. It's the next phase. And there's not too many out there that use this kind of protocol infrastructure. Hedera is one of them, of course, Constellation. There are a few others as well. But Shimmer kind of acts as another layer on top of this for companies, projects, developers, etc. to be able to build on this system, for it to be able to be tested and piloted before it gets integrated into the overall frameworks and spectrum of what Iota is all about. So it's really important in this phase, for a better term, over these next few years, for companies and projects to be coming together, trying to see how they can work in harmony with each other as well. But there's going to be a lot of testing, a lot of development that needs to go into all of that as well. So of course Iota always boasts that kind of fearless representation. A lot of chains out there would charge, potentially, depending on how many tokens you need or what kind of levels of development you're doing, they would not directly charge, but the utilization of the tokens could sometimes cost a lot of money. So in some aspects, utilizing Iota and Shimmer in that instance takes away a lot of the cost bearing to some of these institutional level companies. And when you're talking about massive development, you could be talking about hundreds of thousands, if not potentially millions, of infrastructure protocol development over these coming years. So it's really exciting to see that the Shimmer, and particularly the EVM aspect of Shimmer, being integrated with Fireblocks. There's just a couple of notes here I just wanted to mention. And again, there's so much talk around at the moment about tokenization of real world assets RWA. We've just done a video recently this morning on Proppy, the real estate company in blockchain, and talking a bit more detail again about real world assets. We did an NFT video a couple weeks ago. Again, I'll leave a link at the end of this one. And we talk really in depth about why real world assets is such a significant part of blockchain, IoT, and AI moving forward, and why we're seeing this pattern. And ultimately, in my opinion, along with CBDCs, I do anticipate that real world asset terminology or conversation will be a huge catalyst for the next bull cycle, similarly to what we saw before as an NFT approach. And of course, more recently, we did see a mini bull run. I think it was earlier this year around artificial intelligence. So I think these are going to be really key buzzwords. But the topic here, suggesting that the total market capitalization for tokenized real world assets reached $342 billion in September. That was despite the bear market. Of course, we've had a nice rally up in the last few weeks. But the point being here is that when you're utilizing projects or technologies like Iota, in particular the Shimmer framework on top of that, you're in a really strong position to be able to coordinate so many different things. And that includes bringing loads of different sectors and industries together. We've talked, and I'll briefly mention about DAG here now. As I said, you can check out the other video, but the whole principle of DAG, or the tangle mechanism within Iota, is to allow so many simultaneous data points, multitude of them. It could be in the thousands or the millions if it really wanted to. And the integration of AI in terms of real data and the transfer of information between machine and machine, or device and device, hence the IoT aspect, Internet of Things, it starts building this web. And I always try and explain it or describe it, at least in an audio fashion, as think of a spider web, and you're looking at front on, and you just see the usual frame or web work of what the spider has made. But imagine that in a 4D element where you could actually stretch that out, and there's so many of those different edged corner points of the web, but you're looking at in a 4D model. So you could spin this around and you could go within the web and find out there's thousands upon millions of other data and transaction points here. And that whole point of transactions is a very important keyword. In a sense, it's not just financial transactions we're talking about, it's a transfer of an action in general. And we've talked about this many times about the thousands upon millions of transactions that could happen within milliseconds all day, every day, around the world globally. So Iota has the ability to accommodate that and use the feeless protocols as well, so it ensures that it keeps costs down, and the ability now with Shimmer for others to jump into the system and develop and bring that to companies like ones that are mentioned here as an example on the Fireblocks website partnership list here. And again, this is not all of them at all, it's just some of them. There's over 1,800 partners with Fireblocks right now. So to have this integrated is absolutely fantastic for me as an Iota holder. I do hold Shimmer through when I got some from the staking. I think it must have been like a year or so ago now. And I do anticipate to try and add more Shimmer to my portfolio. We'll go into that in a minute from CoinMarketCap. Unfortunately, on TradeView, there isn't too much historic data of the chart, so we'll use that for a better visual representation for sure. But this is on top, of course, the news that we provided a couple of weeks ago with Iota very much getting $100 million investment from Abu Dhabi's governmental initiatives towards blockchain. They absolutely love Iota over there, and it was great to see that. Now that 100 million will come in drips and drabs, but it took the Iota price absolutely phenomenally high compared to where it was a few weeks back. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll do that one on TradeView because it's easier. So we're going to split the chart into two topics of Iota and Shimmer, because at the end of the day, you could kind of coordinate this with essentially the fact of an advantage that Iota has is that Shimmer is its own project. It's its own technology. Whereas a lot of chains out there, of course, Iota do, of course, open up to ecosystems and eco builders. But the point being here is that there's a lot more control and emphasis on the fact that you can channel more and more of these initiatives and partnerships through the Iota system moving forward. And especially with the fact, for example, in Europe, where we talked about a lot of the time with Iota, the European Blockchain Association is working with Iota. I think they're on phase 2B at the moment for the integration of the framework of blockchain being used across the whole entirety of Europe in general. That's a big population, that's a big use case there. And Iota would be one of the prominent figures of blockchain utility across Europe, let alone what we just discussed about Dubai and many other countries and corners around the world. So it's really exciting time to see the development of Iota, and for sure Shimmer having these fantastic kind of integrations as well as we move forward. I think what was really interesting for me was the Fireblocks aspect as well, because it really does open it up to some really cool institutional level opportunities. And this could be a very big catalyst if timing was right with development and things with some of these companies for that bull cycle. And I'm guaranteeing to you probably that in those narratives within those 6 to 9 months of a bull cycle coming up, hopefully towards the end of 2024, will be coming out left, right and center with Iota's capabilities and Shimmer's integrations as well. So it's very interesting. In terms of the Shimmer price, it's currently floating around 3.38 cents, so pretty much just under 4 cent mark. For those that missed it back in 2022, so this is when I was had mine right at the beginning, I completely missed the launch aspect and sell-off opportunity. So it did rise all the way up to 12 cents. I can't remember the opening value now, but it's suggesting about 5.8 cents on here. So we're not actually too far off that actual initial launch price, to be honest, where we are today. Obviously that launch period took place. We took a big plunge down in December 2022, pretty much again around where we are right now. And since then we've had some good activity taking it up towards that 9 cent mark, but a gradual reduction as we've seen across the whole entirety of the markets in general to this current price point. So I do anticipate that we may come and potentially retest this area of the slightly lower 3 cent mark, around 3.5 perhaps, but that remains to be seen. I think this is one of those things now that there's going to be more and more narratives around Shimmer, so I think this will stabilize around this sort of 3 cent mark above, and continue its rise over the next year or two, and particularly over the next 5-10 years, which is ultimately my goal really for the long term. If I can take advantage in the next bull cycle, I will for sure, but I'd like to see bigger numbers than we've seen prior to today's date for the Shimmer token. So it's very, very interesting indeed to see how we could progress with that, but there's a lot of space and time to go with that price point of the SMR token. In terms of where you can get Shimmer at the moment on the exchange perspectives, we've got Bitfinex and Bitforex listed here. They're some of the key areas that you can obtain the Shimmer token. You can see that the volumes aren't gigantic yet, so it's still very much early days with Shimmer. And of course you see the detail along here about the total supply aspects and the market cap generation of Shimmer at this current time as well. So talking about Shimmer, we of course could not miss out and not list developments of the Iota price as well. So without further ado, let's get that into the frame now as well. So with Iota, I've been holding this for a long time. I absolutely love this project. In the last few days, or if not a couple of weeks, so 30th of November, we had a price point of around about 17 cents. It's been floating around that area for a long time. I have been trying my best to accumulate around these sort of 14 to 17 cent marks over the last 6 months or so. I was anticipating or hoping, for a better word, for us to transfer ourselves back down to the 10 cent mark or near enough towards it, which is something we saw back here in June 2023 and roughly around 17th of August respectively as well. It may be too late for me to accumulate at those areas, but I do still have some limit orders around there just in case. But for now, we can see that price point rose itself all the way up to 115%. Taking itself up to around about the 40 cent mark. This was around the news of the $100 million investment from Dubai. And then, of course, since then, as we mentioned in the video at the time, we'll probably see a retracement, at least to see some bounce off effects of previous data points, of which one, we're pretty much at that critical area right now, around 27 cents, pretty much around where the price is today. And it kind of matches up with some really interesting data in history, October 2022 and February 2023, as we mentioned just now, in relation to where that price point is today. It is reflecting on those previous resistance areas on the upward trend, but we're now seeing potential stability or testing of that area on the way down. Will we get support? That is the next question, because ultimately we're now matching back up here with the 28th of November price. So you could argue that we might have a day or two more of stability around this particular 26, 27 cent mark. We may do a retest of the 30, depending on how much more of the Shimmer reaction comes out and more people get aware of that. But in general, I think as well, people are still in this bear market mode. I think we've had a good rally up on most of the market assets out there. So I do anticipate, sadly, in some ways, albeit better actually for me to be able to accumulate low areas, that we may see these lower regions again at around the 24 cents. And I do anticipate us to retest this 20 cent and arguably the 17 cent mark again, just maybe a couple more times, because the reason I say this is we tried to test this area on the way up. We've seen a lot of resistance on the way up. We broke through that because of the announcement. But now, in my opinion, we need to test the resistance or the support of that level. What I mean by that is we need to try and come up back all the way down eventually. This could take maybe a month, potentially 2 months in general. Who knows? It might lead up towards that Bitcoin halving event towards April, where we do a retest of this area. And then we'll find ourselves rallying up over those months to come into the latter stages of around sort of June, July, August time. I anticipate the bull cycle confirmations. We'll have to see how that pans out. But Iota has a very, very good opportunity to, of course, hit those previous all-time highs, which were way up here. And it just gives you a bit of an indication. This is the last video that we did. We're not too far off where that price point is now, so I'll leave it just about there. So you're looking around potentially, if we get to the previous all-time high and the next fib levels of testing up at this level here, we're looking potentially at 1,500% to almost potentially 2,600% gains from the current positions. Absolutely phenomenal opportunity from those areas that we are today. And of course that could be a similar principle to Shimmer. It's very much different tokenomics at the moment, so I don't necessarily anticipate humongous percentage gains like this, but I do anticipate potentially for us to at least retest those 10 cent marks. And that might be laughable compared to the numbers we're seeing here, but that's still a good gain opportunity potentially with Shimmer. So that's not financial advice, just my opinions and thoughts based on data, and of course the aspects of what's going on in the world and how these blockchains and these layer protocols could potentially be used in the coming years, especially in the development stages. But one last quick point here is a performance indicator, almost kind of confirming what we just said a minute ago. I do anticipate a bit of stability in these next few days to try and retest some lower areas. That's kind of confirmed with the fact that we're at a negative of 14% on the week, but the others are still in a good green philosophy. The month and the 3 months looking relatively strong, and that year is still grasping itself above the green line as well. The RSIs on the bottom left here are showing 57 on the 14-day and 28 days showing 60 respectively. For me personally, that's still a bit too high to be doing any manual positions until I see at least if there's some stability at this 27 cent area, or I will be certainly waiting for those DCA opportunities back again around the 24, which we did hit briefly yesterday. I would have some positions there, and I will be putting some positions at 20, and I'm going to leave my previous ones where they are, which are still around that 14.5, and I've still got that crazy option down by the 12 cent mark as well. Who knows? It's worth me keeping it in there because I'm just utilizing profit taking anyway, so it's not a big drama. If I see that we're not really getting anywhere further down there in the next couple of months, I may change that back up to a higher position. Ultimately, I'm looking at that long-term vision and those long-term potential prices. So to be honest, between the level of 14 cents and 20 cents in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal, albeit depends on how much you accumulate, and then obviously determines how much more money you might get in the return on investment. So that's very much the scale out of Shimmer and Iota for today's video, guys. I tried to keep it as short as I could. Not too bad. It's usually longer than this. I'm going to do my best to try and keep videos under 15 minutes maximum, but this wasn't too far off. Guys, thanks for watching this one. We'll see you in the next Iota Shimmer update video. Take care. Bye bye.